Welcome back to the Freedom First podcast. We are your hosts, Blaine Smotherman
and Eric Hearn.
This episode is brought to you in part by Jeffries Firearms Training.
Shooters making shooters. For more information, contact owner Ronnie Jeffries on Instagram at Jeffries Firearms Training.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 18 of the Freedom First podcast. On this episode, we got to sit down with the gubernatorial candidate, Major Williams, to talk about his 2022 run for governor of California. We got to talk about the recall, Gavin Newsom efforts, his story growing up from rags to riches, and why Californians should vote for him in the 2022 election. We also got to discuss his plans to restore the state of California if elected governor. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Major Williams. Welcome. You have now entered the Freedom First podcast,
where we have conversations with some of the most interesting human beings on the planet.
People who live and breathe a Freedom First mentality. There we go. Major Williams, welcome to the show today, the Freedom First podcast. I appreciate you joining us, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to kind of share with you and your audience today. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And to kind of start the show off, we do a little segment called the Freedom Minute, which is just some rapid fire questions just to get us warmed up and get us rolling into the conversation today. So the first question I have, what is the most memorable moment in your career thus far?
The most memorable moment in my career thus far is visiting the White House for the first time. It was pretty fantastic. And being in a hallway randomly and running into Vice President Pence. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And what year was this?
This was 2019. 2019. It's pretty cool.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Awesome. So under the Trump administration. Awesome.
Yeah.
Second question. Who is your favorite athlete and why?
Oh, wow. Well, Michael Jordan, tenacity, determination, the mentality to always want to win, and also working on your craft to be great, not to be good. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. So Michael Jordan is definitely the top tier of athletes that has inspired and motivated me in all things in my life.
Yeah, you can't argue with that one. Go. Last question. If you could sit down and have a conversation with anyone throughout the history of the world, who would it be and why?
That's a good question. Yeah, this definitely does get you warmed up, huh? You know
the
what?
hard ones.
I know. I would like to speak to Martin Luther King. That'd be fantastic to actually have a conversation with him and hear the true dynamics directly from him in regards to everything that he went through, the mindset that he had to have, and the mental fortitude that he had to have during those particular times, and what advice he would have for someone like myself that's up and coming in the political industry, so to speak, on how to persevere and how to deal with and have balance and, work, life, family, and, so that'd be a great conversation I would love to have, that I would have loved to have.
Yeah, that would just be inspiring, and just a philosophy behind his mindset, and
Absolutely.
and especially in your situation, like you said. Thank you for answering those questions. Get us warmed up, and I kind of just want to jump in and have you tell your story, your background, experience. I know you grew up in a single parent household, so kind of go back. What was it like growing up, and how was that dynamic?
Well, every time I share the story about how I grew up, I always tell people it's really from the perception of what I have now. Because when I was younger, I didn't realize some of those things, right, until you kind of like look back. I knew that, we were in a struggling situation due to certain things that happened with my mother. I jumped from house to house. We didn't have like a stable household. I don't have a relationship with my father. I don't know who he is at this particular point. And so it was a very interesting dynamic growing up without guidance, growing up without certain foundations. But one of the things I did have, which has helped a lot of people, is the church. Very early on, my grandmother and my grandfather was adamant about us going to church all the time. As a young kid back then, you would think it was punishment more than just
Right.
going to the foundation, but subconsciously, God always figures out a way to kind of be at your core. And once we were a part of a great church community, started to become active. I was in the choir, attended Sunday school, and at one point had aspirations when I was 14 to want to become a pastor. And people always ask me, like, why? I said basically because I was able to see the impact or the impression that he was able to, administer to the congregation. I seen people feel uplifted. I seen people feel inspired to go out and just make good of themselves. And just for me, that felt good to be in that type of position, to be able to share knowledge based upon the book, the Bible, to inspire and motivate and lift people up and say, hey, this is not it, right? You're still special. You're still powerful. Yes, you may have done this, you may have done that, but he's a forgiving God. And this is what he wants you to do and to become. And so I always thought that was like a very powerful message. And somehow, some way that kind of seeped into my soul. So I've always been a servant. I've always been a giver. I've always been had a lot of humility in the public service area. I wanted to play sports. In that environment, you get really heavily caught in sports. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, for full context, so it's a football state. But I ended up gravitating more so to basketball. And I had professional basketball aspirations. I was 5'7" when I entered high school. By the time I finished, I was
Oh, wow.
5'10". But my freshman year in junior college, which was Trainer Valley Community College, I went for 1 year. I shot up to 6'2". And so imagine, not having any clothes. So that
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I, I wore the basketball sweatsuits every day. So that's kind of how I covered it up, right? But yeah, I started studying business very early on, and more so marketing in college. After that 1 year, I went to Louisiana Tech University. It was a culture shock. There was a melting pot of ethnicities, different backgrounds, different conversations, different aspirations. And for me, it was inspiring to kind of like open my mind to be a part of such an eclectic group. And it just like basically changed my life in the sense that it allowed me to see that there was more beyond my community and my neighborhood and gave me different kind of aspirations. And so I was always an entrepreneur. I used to sell cars since at the car wash when I was 10 years old. At 14, I was able to get a lawnmower and I was able to start cutting yards for an actual living. And I tell people I didn't know I was an entrepreneur. I just really wanted to go and buy hamburgers, right? I was hungry,
Right,
right? And
right.
so I
Yeah.
had to figure it out. It was tough times, and so I went to school. I studied, as I say, marketing and business, and I ended up leaving school early with MBA aspirations. And once more, not having true guidance or a male in my house, it was a bad decision. But as a 17, 18-year old, you think you know it all and you know what's the best for you. And so I
Yeah, oh
took
yeah.
that that leap of faith, um, and went after and pursued my dream in the NBA. And mind you, that wasn't until I was like 20, 21. And it didn't work out. I had some good tryouts with a couple agents and scouts and things of that nature, but it didn't manifest in the way that I wanted it to. Fast forward, ended up in Los Angeles on a visit. The third day, I met an amazing woman, and I married that amazing woman. So 21 years later, married to my wife Asia, three beautiful kids. I've had the unique opportunity to exist in so many different industries in California, which is great from a mental health aspect of it, nonprofit aspect, music, entertainment in general, and sports and marketing as well. I always tell people I had a cousin, he played for the Clippers, and he was like my first client, so to speak, in regards to being able to broker opportunities and deals for professional athletes. And because I did such a good job bridging those gaps, I was able to acquire other clients and then get booking agents and managers involved, and had a great run in regards to the opportunities I was able to have. As far as politics, I've only been in politics for the last 4.5 years, and it happened on a whim. A good friend of mine by the name of Cole Harris ran for lieutenant governor of California, and he asked me to be a part of his campaign at the capacity of a marketing director and also community outreach. Politics is like any other industry. If you're good at something or see people see talent, they're going to try to bring you into the fold and just say, you
Sure.
should do this or you should run for something. And that's initially how all this started. Doing a very impressionable job, working on a multi-million-dollar campaign, but also having the opportunity to be a front in front of the lens, also behind the scenes, working with some of the most powerful people in politics and kind of getting a crash course on understanding policy. And that's one of the main components that kind of converted me from a Democrat to a Republican. I went from not being activated in politics at all from a crash course from all these great minds and spirited individuals, letting us know what was truly going on with our country. And one of the main components of it is weak leadership and also detrimental policies to either our state and also our country. And so at that point, once the cover is taken off your eyes, like you're either going to stay in the stands of frustration and just complain about what everyone should or shouldn't do, or you're going to take yourself out of the stands of frustration, jump on the field in our political arena, suit up in your political jersey, and affect our political climate as a player versus being a spectator. And ever since then, we've been hitting the ground running, ran for mayor of Pasadena, made history. We didn't win, but we still made history, getting the most votes ever for a first-time candidate. And that was a great testing ground and a great base for us to be able to be where we are now, which is we have the fastest rising Republican candidacy in most recent history. This has only been
Right.
301 days, and the rise that we have has never been seen before. And so we still have certain hurdles and obstacles, but I enjoy the opportunity, and I'm always, blessed to be able to get on a show like this, kind of share it with you and your audience.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And just, you know, you've gotten a lot of attention and just kind of by a lot of word of mouth as well, and a lot of hard work from you guys. Just different people spreading the word. I know you've spent a lot of time in the Central Valley talking to farmers recently. Um, and like you were talking about, you come from this diverse background and you've got to experience a lot of different types of fields. So how has, I guess, growing up, single parent household, growing up, relatively poor, how has that allowed you to connect with a lot of Californians, coming from those humble beginnings?
Well, it starts with relatability, right? The relatability, that aspect in itself gives us a certain connection. It gives us a certain understanding of each other, of our plights, of our issues, our struggles, our failures. Those are all relatable components that at least put us in a place to have a foundation of great conversation, which is what we're missing with a lot of, these elected officials. There's no relatability. So if there's no relatability, there's no empathy. There's no true bridge for us to actually collaborate and work together because
Right.
as an elected official, so to speak, those individuals can't really relate. It's more so about them because they've been successful or had a different path. It's about telling you how you should feel or what's best for you. And that's one of the main reasons why I have submerged myself in the Central Valley. I've been there over 7 times. It's probably one of the most frequently places I visited simply because I remember the first meeting I had with the line deckers in Central Valley. It's a farming family, and we were all sitting at the table, and everyone came out as far as the entire family. And the first thing the dad asked me, he said, "So tell me, what do you know about farming?" And we had my response, I guess he said, was classic. I said, I know absolutely nothing about farming. I'm from the projects, right? And everyone else
Right.
just cracked up because that's the reality. And I need to make sure that I was very transparent with him because what they need to understand is everyone doesn't know your plights because everyone isn't a part of your industry, right? But my thing is, real leadership is going to meet it face to face, hear the stories, hear the issues and concerns, and being able to grasp, is this fair or is this unfair? And I've deemed what's happened to the agriculture industry as unfair, and their voices are going unheard. So I am going to be their champion as the next governor of California. I look forward to bringing water back and safe regulations that are going to be beneficial for the farming community.
Yeah, and I appreciate you spending so much time here. And one thing I see about you, compared to a lot of other politicians, you're willing to go to the places that are they're not those popular places where you're going to get necessarily a ton of votes, but they're important. So you are going and visiting all these small towns and reaching out and willing to learn. And I think that wasn't so important. I seen a post that you had made, that you're willing to learn and sit down. You didn't have a background in agriculture, but you're willing to go and meet with these people that are experts in these fields and
Yeah.
learn from them. Because you didn't see a lot of politicians like Gavin Newsom coming to the valley and spending a lot of time and talking to farmers. But you have. So that's one thing that's really intrigued me and I appreciate about you.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's essential, and for me, it's just like free school, right? Being able to learn all this new information that I've never known before, it's been mind blowing. It's been so unique, and it's been just like a learning opportunity for me. So, I look at it like an amazing experience. And I tell people, especially if you're a candidate, if you don't enjoy the process and truly submerge yourself into it, then you truly don't get anything from it, because this is your actually on the job training right now for those particular roles. And if you think on the job training is a yard sign and a billboard, well, you're highly confused. And especially under the pretense of Republicans, that's why one of the main reasons we've lost. There's no true impact. There's no physical connections. There's no memories. There's no moments that people continue to tell people, as you said earlier. It's not like we put millions and millions and millions into getting our name out there. We put in millions of hours, it feels like, making those lasting moments and connections resonate to the point where people are continuously spreading the name and awareness of what we stand for without us even being around. And that's been a magical thing to experience.
So, what, as a governor coming and running for the Republican Party, what do you bring to the table that, your opponents and others do not, including our current governor, Gavin Newsom?
Well, I think overall relatability. I also think that I bring a more diverse background, but there is a component for inspiration that can come from what we're doing. Because as I said earlier, using the analogy of the stands of frustrations universally across the entire state, what I have recognized is that we are unified in frustration. And because of that frustration, it really is a nonpartisan, or it's not a partisan race at this point in my mind. It's about the best person that's electable, that is more so willing to fight for our constitutional rights, that's willing to fight for our freedoms and our liberties, because we're dealing with so much under a very short amount of time with everything that's going on with the lockdowns for the last year. And someone that's going to be honest and transparent. So what separates me is that I don't profess to have a magic wand. We are in a heap of a mess, and it's going to take some time to get through it. But I do know that the governor's office and the resources and having that leverage will give me the opportunity to bridge the gap of bringing the best and brightest together, and also involving the actual community as my partners. Is going to give us the best shot to bring balance back to our state versus other candidates that feel like they already have it figured out for us, right? And that's a perpetual cycle of us having a flawed selective process, thinking that those guys are automatically qualified because they have all the bells and whistles in a shiny package. But the shiny package and the bells and whistles has failed us for decades. And so that's the track record and the data, the analytics that we could truly pull from, that's tangible. We can see that it doesn't automatically mean that you're qualified. You look at someone like Governor Gavin Newsom. He's been failed in 3 different positions for the last 9 years, 9 to 10 years, whether it's mayor, whether it's lieutenant governor, and also here now as governor. You can tell from the way that he handled the lockdown. So what separates me is just bringing that a diverse background, a different brand of leadership, someone who's strong and willing to fight for all Californians.
People could go to your website and see the issues, that you are for and against. As we kind of end our conversation today, if elected, what are the major issues? And there's a lot to list, I guess, but if you had to just maybe talk about 1 or 2 issues facing California, which is that's kind of a lot to ask to narrow it down right now, but what are the major issues you think need to be focused on and you want to just tackle right away?
Well, the major issue is electing the right candidate. That's the major issue of all things that's happening with California. Choosing the right leadership for the path that we're setting out on leaving from here. I would say homelessness is at the top universally across the state, because we know that's risen over the last 2 years, 16 to 18%, and at that particular rate is going to be catastrophic in the next 2 years. In regards to that, we're dealing with, our parks are being overran by tent encampments, our highway underpass, alleyways, even our parks that we pay our hard-earned tax dollars for as well. And so that is a huge issue that we're going to deal with. And we have some very good ideas on how to do that. And our ideas that didn't come from just our personal ideas, it's come from us collaborating with other successful models. And we're customizing those and putting those in the Restore California plan. Another thing is understand that California is not lacking any financial revenue. It just has wasteful spending and mismanagement. So, as the next governor of California, we look forward to coming in and doing a forensic audit and identify the wasteful spending and put things in place to reallocate those funds. And one way that we're going to use those reallocated funds is giving a surge to our local businesses, our small business owners, for a 4-year program, which is going to create a stimulus, which is going to allow those small businesses to create jobs and opportunities within those neighborhoods, marketing, or just that extra cushion. Because even after this lockdown is totally uplifted and 20% and 50% capacity, there are going to be lingering effects that happen for all these businesses, not including the 10,000 plus that are already obliterated. And in my first 100 days, policy that's just not probably high on the list for everyone, but I do plan on using executive orders to abolish bills like SB 276 and SB 277, SB 145, and also AB 5, which are bills that I feel like that are detrimental to so many Californians. We have a mass exodus of Californians leaving out of California, whether it's their families, small businesses, and corporations. And so, if we don't get our arms wrapped around those two particular components, we're going to be in a heap of a mess in regards to, as we said, to dealing with the crisis that the agriculture industry is dealing with as well.
Some of those bills you just mentioned, for those that maybe aren't familiar, can you just briefly tell our listeners what those bills are?
Sure, SB 276 and SB 277 deals directly with exemptions, medical exemptions, and religious exemptions for kids and parents being able to take their kids to school due to the beliefs or due to being medically injured, vaccine injured. Some kids have already been through the experience, and why would they put their kids through it again? And these schools, teachers union, and the government is supporting. Basically ostracizing these parents. They have no choice; their hands are tied, and so they're having to leave our state. So that's what those particular two bills are about. It's about mandatory vaccinations. I believe in choice when it comes to vaccinations. If a parent wants to vaccinate their kids, that's their choice. If a parent chooses not to vaccinate their kids based upon whatever their notion is, that should be their choice as well, and that's what I'm going to fight for. Bills like SB 145 is in combination with that. It basically doesn't automatically make a child sex predator a child sex predator under the court of law. It has to be deemed by the actual judge. But it also creates this platform to where a 24-year-old could date a 14-year-old and not necessarily blend those lines of pedophilia. And we know clearly it does. And so we're going to fight against bills like that because it creates this open portal for those opportunities to occur. As far as AB5, that's an attack on independent contractors, and also small business owners, entrepreneurs. They haven't asked or requested for those dynamics that they're saying that they're doing it to protect them. It's actually hurt them, and it's laid off a lot of independent contractors because certain businesses just cannot operate under those confines because it's bringing on more money that they have to pay to workers' comp and also insurance as well. So they're going to cut costs if they have to do that, and who's going to suffer? The entrepreneur, the small business owner, the independent free thinkers and creators are going to suffer as they are suffering even more so under these lockdowns. So as I said, that is a part of my agenda in the first 100 days to go and eliminate those particular bills with the executive orders.
Last couple things here. Why should people vote for you over Gavin Newsom? And I guess what would be, that kind of first thing you would do once in office?
Well, people should vote for me simply because we understand the dynamics of bringing balance back to California. We are not going to do it by giving this guy a second chance or multiple chances over and over again. Someone who understands business, someone who is relatable, who understands your circumstance, someone that's willing to just be quiet and then just listen and allow you to share your context, your ideals, and your solutions. Never before have we had someone in a leadership position that didn't hide in the ivory towers of Sacramento. Rather yet, created experiences and moments with all Californians across the state. You're literally going to be able to bump into me randomly and have a moment with me. I think it's time for leadership to engage. Leadership hasn't been engaging, and I think that's what people are looking for, that alternative. I think collectively we are exhausted of having these career politicians that are elected officials or even candidates over and over again, it's time for an alternative. It's time for us to kind of like adjust and also mature our selective process when it comes to choosing and deeming what qualified truly is in a selected field, because they have tricked us with the word politics and think it only applies to one industry. Well, newsflash, politics applies to everything in your life. For the last 20 years, I would say that I've been very political, although I've worked in multiple industries, but you can take those tangible elements and components of what you learned and apply it to any industry. It's all formula, process, discipline, and consistency when it comes to real leadership. Being able to identify your strengths, being able to identify your weaknesses, and make decisions based upon that. That is what's missing. We're not missing the smartest individual. We're not missing the richest individual to be governor. We're truly missing leadership. And Gavin Newsom hasn't showed that with misguided decisions, going to the French Laundry, and then said, when I was there, I thought that I should go home. When he should have said, when I was at home, I shouldn't have went. Or what he should have said, this shouldn't have been even a conversation. He should have never done that, because if this is such a scary moment that we're dealing with the lockdowns, leadership has all the answers, right? They know how serious this is. So if the leader is not showing lax towards that, then what are we doing? Now we're putting humans against each other, masker versus non-mask. It's just a whole field of division. So if you are truly frustrated and you're asking what the difference is, it's time to have a leader that's about unity, pushing us forward through strength and empowerment. In regards to everything else, we're showing improving. We're putting in the work, and we're doing it every single day, wholeheartedly connecting with people. And I think that's important, and that's something that's never been seen before under the Republican umbrella here in California.
Major Williams, where can our listeners, find you at, look up more information about you? Where can they donate to your campaign?
Sure. So we're asking everyone to go to the website, majorforgovernor.com. Make sure to look into our policies. Don't just vote for me because I have a cool jacket on. Go and do your research, right? I'm willing to earn this opportunity to be of service. That's what I've been about from the beginning. As far as donation, you can donate directly from the website. And one of the beautiful things about this website, if you have a message for me, if you have a question, and more importantly, if you have a solution to some of the issues in your community, in your neighborhood, in your city, or your county, you can actually go to my website, click a button that says record video. You can actually leave me a video message just like this and talk directly to me. And I reply back and respond as well. That's one of the unique dynamics that we can start building that relationship now. We also have an amazing thing that's happening right now. Our goal is to get 40,000 people, 40,000 Californians wearing one of these hats, right? So go to majorwilliamsmerch.com and grab your merchandise. And we're going to create a day next month where everyone is going to wear these hats in unison and post them all over social media. It's going to be monumental. It's going to be a huge campaign ad, and I want you to be a part of it. So majorwilliamsmerch.com.
Do you have a date for that? A set date for the hat?
So the date is going to be sometime towards the end of April, so between the 28th and the 30th.
Awesome. And one thing I'll say, I appreciate you taking the time, and you are very accessible. You're always on the streets, whether it's in Southern California or all over the place throughout California in general. And you reply back to as many people as you can on social media, comments and DMs and everything else. So I appreciate you and your team taking the time to come on our show today and just tell your story and tell us what you're all about and what your team's all about. And we wish you the best of luck going forward. And we're just honored that you took the time to come on with us today.
Absolutely. Well, we'll definitely do it again. I appreciate you for even having
for sure,
the want to even have us on today. And every time I get an opportunity to share, we're all for it. Obviously, we're very busy, but we're super active. But we love doing stuff like this and taking moments to support you, your platform. But also, it's great for us to have you supporting us and our platform as well too. So we're just humble, and we appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We appreciate you and your support of the show. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave feedback on Apple Podcasts.